My guest at this time starred in such films as Scream, 10,000 Miles to Graceland, Eight-Legged Freaks, and Bone Tomahawk. He can now be seen as the feature in the documentary You Cannot Kill David Arquette. It's David Arquette. David, thank you very much for taking the time to chat with me today.
Thank you, Nick. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, wonderful. Well, I've got a lot to ask you about here in a short amount of time, but I want to start off by asking you personally if you feel happier now, because a large part of the documentary was about you struggling with the sadness of what your pro wrestling career was and did. Do you feel better now?
I do. I mean, in the film, we're telling a story. So, yeah, there's a lot of sadness. I mean, there's a lot of sadness from just life in general. Life's not easy for a lot of people. So, you know, losing my parents, losing my sister, different things really sort of, are still in there and painful, but to be able to deal with them and to really figure out your own self-worth and believe in yourself. That was the real message in this movie.
That's awesome, man. And so, take me back here a little bit. Obviously, something clicked in your head where you said, I have to go back. I have to do pro wrestling again. Was there a moment or something that happened that made you flip that switch and say, let's do this thing?
No, it was really 20 years building up to it. I mean, I'd gone to Staples Center events and just different events, WWE events. Whenever I'd be traveling, wherever I could, I'd go see a match. And then, I'd get some fans would be cool and say, what's up, champ? And let's have fun with it. But then a lot of people just really hated me. And I took Christina one time and she's like, I can't believe you come to these things. Like, people are so mean to you. Like, you're a sensitive person. It's weird that you'd come. And it was always just eating at me. So it was just something I knew I had to address. I got a surgery and I came out and I was like, I really want to, address this wrestling thing. She was like, what are you talking about? She didn't really understand what I was doing, but she got on board. And at the end of the day, she really is the one who deserves the belt because she is the champion for producing the movie, for dealing with me through it, and just being a badass woman.
I gotta believe it's hard for her to sit there and work on footage that sees you bleeding out. That seems like a really unique situation to put your significant other in,
Yeah, she really was. She was concerned about me, but she's also calling and saying, are you sure you got all the cards for the the scene? Did you get all the angles? So she's balancing these things, which was really good.
Oh, did you get a good shot? Did you get a good shot of the blood coming out of your throat?
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds so romantic, David.
Yeah.
So let's go back here a little bit. Even before the documentary, let's go back to WCW here. When this was all being decided that you were going to have the title put on you, do you remember ever saying to anybody hey, maybe this isn't a good idea? I mean, what was the reaction of the locker room after you came back with the title? Take me back to all of this here.
Yeah. When I first heard about it, I thought that's a terrible idea. We can't do that. That's just the belt. And, blah, blah. And there was a storyline that they were setting up between Jeff Jarrett and Diamond Dallas Page. So he was saying, listen, you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. But if you don't, the promotion of Ready to Rumble and Ready to Rumble essentially is dead now. And that's it, You won't wrestle anymore. You won't be traveling with us. And I was like, wait, I get to travel with you? So I found out that, yeah, you get to stay until the pay-per-view, which that was 2 weeks away. So I get to travel and wrestle and kind of live my dream for 2 weeks. I was like, okay, I'll do it. Because I wanted to have that experience of being part of the thing. I just never knew that I was going to be such an outcast. But after I won the belt, I was sitting in the locker room one of the next times I was supposed to go out, and Booker T was getting ready, and I said, how many times have you been champ, Booker T? And he said, I've never been the champ. And that really hit me. I was like, oh, damn.
Wow.
But then it made a lot of sense, why people were so upset, and I got it a lot more. I just thought of it more as a kid. You know what I mean? I fell in love with wrestling as a kid. I kind of looked at it up to that point the way a kid looks at it. So it wasn't as serious and really deep as I learned it to be.
Wow, man, that's crazy. And so here we come now, like back to the present moment, and you decide to get back into wrestling. Now, when you got back into wrestling, because one of the things I thought was so interesting about the documentary is it seemed very deliberate. Like it almost feels like it was an organic story, but at the same time, you were picking your moments very wisely. Does that resonate with you when I say something like that?
Well, we wanted to start from the bottom. And backyard wrestling had become a bigger thing. Like it was on like VHSs back when I was wrestling, but then some wrestlers now have come up out of backyard wrestling.
Sure.
So we wanted to have an element, and we wanted to build up sort of from the ground up and get proper training along the way. So they set all that up, and I just would show up and just, you know, just sort of be open, be prepared with gear, but be open to whatever happened. But I'm the one who like wanted to go out on the independent circuit and do all those matches that weren't on camera. Like a lot of the stuff that's in the film was from the cameras that were shooting it. So I didn't have like these guys following me on the independent circuit that much.
Right.
Although they came up for like my birthday and they came up for a couple things. And then the death match wasn't even supposed to be filmed. I was like, David Darg, one of the directors, was in town. I said, you should probably come because this is going to be crazy.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, it was.
Yeah, because it was interesting, you know, watching the documentary. I'll kind of bounce around here a little bit. Like, you and RJ have such a unique relationship. And, like, I kind of felt like, you know, the show with you tagging with RJ at Warrior Wrestling here in Chicago, like, it felt like that was what you were building to. And then this Nick Gage thing happened, and that becomes the new direction of the documentary. Is that kind of what happened there with this, or no?
They never really, like, we showed a little of the wrestling with RJ, but there's a whole world there in tag team wrestling and independent wrestling. But it was a lot lighter. But yeah, the Nick Gage thing did happen. But it's weird. As I was going along, like certain people would book me and it wouldn't book RJ, and then that would be all kind of messed up. And I always love wrestling with RJ. He just knows he's a veteran. Like he's been doing this for like 10 years at least, probably more.
Yeah.
So, so there's always a comfort level there when you have someone who has so much experience. They know how to set up matches and like tell a story in a better way.
Sure.
Protect you in a better way. So that when I wouldn't wrestle with them, I'd typically have a horrible match, or I'd do something stupid, or I'd get hurt and all this stuff. So, yeah, I wish they would have covered more of that. But, you know, the story kind of unraveled itself. And, you know, the big lesson in it all, you know, even like the Legends of Wrestling thing, part of that was, you know, the first day of shooting, we get in a fight with the Nasty Boys because they didn't want us filming in this place. And we hadn't got asked for clearance. It was our fault. But then it sort of comes full circle because he sees me getting the death match, and then he calls me up and, you know, wants, you know, to let me know that, you know, he's got my back, and, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it was
hard to talk about certain things because I'm trying to protect the business, and I don't want to reveal too much and all that.
Sure. Well, I mean, one of the things I was thinking about when I was putting my other questions actually is like, how hesitant were you to not, you know, give away too much? Because there's this, and again, I don't want to give away the documentary, but there's an excellent sequence with you and RJ at the Championship from Hollywood sequence that you guys did, where it shows you guys putting the match together backstage and in real time watching it play out in the ring. And as a fan and just as an outsider, I don't think people have really ever seen it put together in kind of that way, you know?
Yeah, I was really concerned about that because I kind of am old school, despite like what you might think. I do love traditional, like all the tradition of it and stuff. But, you know, when RJ had a lot to do with the construction of that scene and kind of telling that story.
Cool.
So I was concerned, and I called Yuma, the booker and producer of the segment, and Nick, the referee, and I was like, are you guys all right with this? And they were cool. I asked them, like, has this ever been done before on film? Like, are we doing like a thing that we're not supposed to do. And people explain that the business has changed and it has been done before, and depending on how you do it, it's like certain things, like we don't do it in the, you know, in the lucha stuff. You know, we do it in that match, but then we don't do it in other stuff. So we did try to protect it. I don't know. It's a little controversial. I'm still on the fence, but I love the sequence. I love letting people in to that side of the business and showing them, even though it's sort of choreographed in a sense, that it's just very real and very painful.
I thought it was fantastic, David. I personally am not a full purist. I thought it was just really cool with the music and everything. You know, you got the full ballet of what it is to, you know, to have a match like that. So real quick here before I wrap up and let you go, David, something I wanted to ask you about for sure was, like, what was your mind space like after the Gage incident there? I mean, you've teased, you know, going to AEW and fighting Cody. Obviously, he doesn't have the title anymore, right? But, like, your sister spoke about how worried she was about you. A lot of people were really concerned about you after that happened. You know, what was it like for you? I mean, were you very seriously saying, you know, like, this has gone far enough, I think I'm done with the pro wrestling thing?
I was almost done with it after the RJ match, to be honest with you. I'd been in so much pain. I had 3 fractured ribs, and I was taking all these bumps, and it was just so painful. Like, the pain in having fractured ribs and taking wrestling bumps, it's like I still get like this sense memory for it. It's just chilling, the kind of pain it is. It's like an all body pain. But you know, yeah, I mean, when that happened in that thing, I definitely felt like I'd taken it way too far. You know, I'm a bit of a daredevil. I'm like a little crazy, so, and I'm not scared of anyone, so it's a bad combination to be put in like a ring, like, because I can tolerate pain, and you know, I like to put on the show, especially for these fans, and they're like some of the hungriest fans in the wrestling community. So I wanted to do it for them, and I wanted to do it to prove that I'm not scared of him and I'm tough and whatever. But I don't know. I did feel like it went too far. But, you know, that being said, you know, I'm a little sad I never got to the Japanese, like, world of that, you know, because it's so bananas. It just, I don't know, just to see that world. But
you seem like a layup for DDT Pro. I could see you playing very well in that sandbox, so to speak. So have we, you know, again, I'm trying to wrap this up, but have we seen the last of you wrestling? Is there more to come still with David Arquette?
Well, like they say in the wrestling business, once you're in for life. So I'm pretty sure I'm in for life. I don't know if I'll be a manager or a wrestler, but if you do want to book me, you have to book RJ City.
Okay, got it. Wonderful. It's a package deal. All right, David, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it. Do you want to do a hard plug here for where all the listeners and fans can go and find You Cannot Kill David Arquette?
Hey, I'm David Arquette, and you can find You Cannot Kill David Arquette on any VOD streaming service except the ones that they're not on.